So after middle childhood, we're going to talk about adolescence and physical development. When you try to look at some literature or books, hindi magkasundo kung ano yung age ng adolescence. Yung iba, it's 10 to 20 or 12 to 19. So to be consistent, we're going to use the terms according to World Health Organization. So they called the young people whose age were 10 to 24 years old. This is the largest category. And then the youth, these are the young people who are 15 to 24. And adolescents, this is the second decade of life. It's 10 to 19 years old. So for consistency, we refer to the adolescent stage as those who belong to whose age 10 to 19 years old. Granville Stanley Hall was the first to coin the term adolescence in 1904. Granville Stanley Hall wrote a series of adolescents, wrote a lot of series or books on adolescence. Why then, in 1904, this phase of life was invented? It did not exist. No one thought of adolescence as a unique stage. What do you think is the reason? So why? Why then before 1904? Before 1904, the concept of children was radically different from young people at that time. During the mid 1800s, they were called little adults. During this time also, there was no distinguishing features except for height and the facial appearance between childhood and adulthood. No, they were treated as little adults. Ang pinagkaiba lang, mas maliit lang yung mga bata, tsaka syempre mas batang tignan, mas cute sila. And then sabi ni Jean-Jacques Rousseau, their needs are different. We need to relate to them in a different way. So si Rousseau is a French national. So this idea from Europe napunta ng North America. During the 1800s, people went to work. This is during the Industrial Revolution. So before 1850, work and home were intertwined. Sa bahay lahat ginagawa. Nasa bahay ang trabaho. Sila ang nagtatanim because before the Industrial Revolution, you have the agricultural. Silang gumagawa ng damit nila, sila nagmamanufacture ng mga goods nila. So, during the Industrial Revolution, factories sprang up. People left home and went to work. So, this created a social disruption. It created a line between work and home. So, ano ang nangyari? Kapag nagkaroon ng mga factory, hindi na the same, hindi na sa bahay yung trabaho. They have to go out. And then the biggest question was, should children work? Sabi ng iba, yes. Because they already feed the chicken. They can clean the house. Ang next na question is, should children go to factory? So during this rise of the Industrial Revolution, the people from the rural areas migrated to urban areas. So example, if you are from the United States, no, kung nasa rural ka, nagpunta ka ng New York City. So there were several issues back then. Because of those family who migrated to the city, and then children were not allowed to work, there's a lot of homeless children in the city. Whereas, kasi yung mga magulang nila nagtatrabaho. So, probably, yung mga nagtatrabaho nilang magulang, nandun sila nakatira sa factory. So, yung mga bata, hindi alam kung saan magstay. And so, what happened then was, yung kwento, may mayaman na babae nakakita ng bata na babae. Tapos, hindi niya alam kung saan agency niya iiwanan, no? Hindi naman pwede sa ampunan. Tapos yung inilapit niya sa animal welfare, merong animal welfare, pero walang human welfare. So from then, nagkaroon ng human welfare. Yung mga bata na nasa kalye, nandun na punta sa human welfare. And then what happened? Nagkaroon ng mandatory education in the United States. Yung mga bata na nasa city, they study. But those who were left in the provinces or in the rural areas, ang start ng classes nila October, November, hanggang December. Pagdating ng December to April, these children need to do agricultural work. No, they plow the farm, nag-harvest sila ng mga tinanim nila. And then during this time, nagkaroon ng mandatory education. It's common na example, you are in grade 4, you have classmates who are 17, 18, or 19 years old. Diba? And this started the beginning of a youth culture. Nagkaroon ng age segregation. How did it start? Yung mga parents ng mga batang ito, they no longer work at home. They went to the factory. The kids went to school. And during also that time, they began to see the rise of the radio. And for the first time, communications were directed to young people. No, they were recognized as young people. So itong mga forces na to nag-converge. Industrial Revolution, nagkaroon ng mandatory education in the United States, and the rise of the radio. And so, ano ang sabi ni Stanley Hall? Something unique is going on here. Kaya, he coined the term adolescence. These are the hormone levels by sex and pubertal stage for testosterone and estradiol. Many hormones contribute to the beginning of puberty, but most notably a major rush of estrogen for girls and testosterone for boys. Hormones play an organizational role. It primes the body to behave in a certain way once puberty begins, and an activational role, triggering certain behavioral and physical changes. During puberty, the adolescent's hormonal balance shifts strongly towards an adult state. The process is triggered by the pituitary gland, which secretes a surge of hormonal agents into the bloodstream and initiates a chain reaction. So if you're going to look at this chart, if you're going to look at the testosterone level, no, for boys on the first and the second year of the pubertal stage, biglang taas, no, mapupunta ng like more than 400 ml. But the girls also have some levels of testosterone hanggang 100 on the first year. And then tataas lang yung pagdating sa fifth year. Pagdating naman sa estradiol, the girls, of course, has more estradiol, no? Especially for the estradiol, for the first year of the pubertal stage, nandun lang sa mga 10 ml and then it shoots up sa girls, no? Pagdating ng fourth year, no? Biglang tataas. And then sa boys naman, they also have a level, they also have estradiol in their bloodstream. No, mas mataas ka nga pa nga pagka sa year 1. Tapos, on the 5th year ng pubertal stage, nandun din sila sa more than 30. Puberty occurs over two distinct phases. The first phase is the adrenarche. This begins at age 6 to 8 years of age, and this involves an increased production of adrenal androgens that contribute to a number of pubertal changes, such as skeletal growth. The second phase of puberty, gonadarchy, begins several years later and involves increased production of hormones. You have the estrogen and the testosterone that governs physical and sexual maturation. So in this stage, the girls will have their first menstrual period or menarche, and the boys will experience their first ejaculation, the spermarchy. During puberty, primary and secondary sex characteristics develop and mature. The primary sex characteristics are organs specifically needed for reproduction, the uterus and the ovaries in females, and testes in males. The secondary sex characteristics are physical signs of sexual maturation that do not directly involve sex organs, such as development of breast and hips in girls, and development of facial hair and a deepened voice in boys. Both sexes experience development of pubic and underarm hair at saka yung development ng mga sweat glands nila. So these are the sequence of growth for girls and for boys. So first for the girls, the first to develop is the breast, followed by the pubic hair, the axillary hair, change in voice, change in skin, increased width and depth of pelvis, and muscular development. For the boys, the first to develop are pubic hair, axillary hair, muscular development, facial hair, change in voice, change in skin, and broadening of shoulders. So if you're going to compare the two, um, external yung makikita na pagbabago dun sa girls because the breast, no, nagkakaroon ng a bud or lumalaki yung breast. But for the boys, yung sign, yung pubic hair is, internal nakatago. Then saka followed by the pubic hair. There's also a change in voice for girls, no, nagka-crack din yung voice nila. And then dun sa mga lalaki, pumipiyok, no, yung sinasabing pumipiyok. And then there's a change in skin because of the production of oil glands. Diba, one common problem of adolescence is yung pimples or acne. And then pinakalas na nade-develop sa girls is yung muscular development, but it's the third to develop sa mga boys. Then the last yun sa mga boys is broadening of shoulders. So these are the general growth pattern for boys and girls. Yung kanina, that's the sequence. Yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng physical or secondary sex characteristics na development. Ito naman, general growth patterns. For the boys, there's an increased shoulder width. Their voice becomes striking, deep to high tones as a result of enlarged larynx and vocal cords. They have a lean body mass. The muscles are well developed. The sebaceous gland is more active. Fat deposits present over body parts. There's heavy sweating, and extremity hairs are more. For the girls, due to hormonal effect, bones are more strong and they have broader hips. The voice becomes slightly deeper and considerably fuller. Kung sa mga boys, meron silang lean body mass, sa mga girls, chubby yung body nila. And then, the muscle mass increase is proportionate to general tissue growth. The sebaceous gland is also active. Fat deposits is present over body parts. There's less sweating in girls compared sa heavy sweating ng boys. And there's less extremity hair. Ang daming hair ng mga lalaki sa legs sa mga girls. Hindi naman ganun kadami yung hair nila. This is the normal range and average development of sexual characteristics in males and females. Yung sa males, it's color blue and pink for the females. Etong maroon, this is the onset, average onset, and yung light blue, it's the average completion. Average completion nung sexual characteristics. So, sinong nauuna what's the first thing to develop, no? Ito, you have the breast growth. For girls, no, pwede mag-start yan as early as 8 and the average onset, 11 years old. And then the average completion is at 15, pero merong mga late. Ito late, no? Pagka after ng completion average, this is late na. Ito, before the onset, this is early. So, yung normal or yung average, you look at the onset. Ito, 11. And then, 15. Yung completion. So, early ka, yung breast growth mo, pag 8 years old ka, 9 and 10. Okay, next, we have, for the males, yung testicular growth here. Diba? As early as 9. As late as 17. Meron pa yung testicular growth. And the average onset ay 11. And the average completion, nasa 15. What's next? Next, we have the height spurt. Na unang tumatangkad, nag-i-increase ang height ng mga girls. 9 years old. And then the onset, it's 11. Pagka naman sa lalaki, 12 years old. So, nauna yung mga girls kesa sa boys. But, if you're going to look at the boys, ang span niya, 10, early, no? 10 early. Pero hanggang 17, mag-18 sila. Lumalaki pa yung boys. But, pagdating sa girls, hanggang age, this age lang, oh. Age 15, you already have your full height, or that's the height spurt. And then, nag-slow down na yan. Pwede ka pang tumangkad naman. Pero slowly na. Hindi na yung height spurt na. 6 inches in a year ang taas mo. Next, we have for the girls, menarche. 10 years old. And then, penile growth. Same lang din, no? 10 years old for the boys. Whoa. Yung onset ng menarche, 13, average, diba? Yung sa average ng boys, ng penile growth, 12. Okay, pero yung iba, no, malaki na pagdating ng 10. Tapos, yung late, mga 16. And then, we have the growth of pubic hair. Nauna pa rin yung girls, 11 years old. That's the onset average. Walang mas maaga sa growth of pubic hair. And then, yung sa mga boys naman, by 12 years old sila. Yung age ng onset nila. Parang same lang din with the penile growth. But then, since maaga yun sa girls na nag-start ang growth of pubic hair, maaga rin na nag-stop. Pero pagdating sa boys, hanggang 15 years old, magsi-16, meron pa rin growth of pubic hair. Kasi nga yung boys rin, no, they're also growing in height, adding height, and testicular growth, and penile growth. Physical growth, the growth spurt. The term growth spurt describes the rapid acceleration in height and weight that marks the beginning of adolescence. This is a growth rate that is faster than any growth rate since the children were infants. So, yung isang may growth spurt, yung stage ng infancy na ang bilis lumaki ng mga bata. Ito naman, ang bilis lumaki ng mga teenager. So, yung growth spurts sa girls, it's age 8 to 13, and sa boys, it's age 10 to 16. No, refer back dun sa chart kanina ng growth spurt, nandun yung onset, nandun din yung average completion. Paiba-iba kasi. Kaya ang haba ng range niya. Okay, and then we would refer to puberty naman. This is the point at which a person reaches sexual maturity and is physically capable of fathering or conceiving a child. Puberty, ibig sabihin, meron ng sexual maturity. Yung adolescence, yun yung stage. Adolescence is a stage, just like middle childhood, early childhood. Yung puberty nga lang, it happens during the adolescent stage. In addition to growing taller and heavier, the body assumes an adult-like appearance during the adolescent growth spurt. The most noticeable changes are the appearance of the breast. Diba yun yung unang nakikita pagka sa babae? And widening of the hips. And then sa boys naman, there's broadening of the shoulders. Facial features also assume adult proportion. As the forehead protrudes, no? Lumalapad yung mga noo kasi kasabay ng paglapad ng noo, lumalaki rin yung nandun sa loob ng noo. Diba? The frontal, prefrontal cortex. The nose and jaw become more prominent and the lips enlarge. So if you're going to look at the picture ni yung dalawang child star doon sa title page ng physical development, diba? Ibang-iba yung itsura nung nasa middle childhood sila tsaka yung nasa adolescence. And because of this, yung mga changes in body parts nila, ang nangyayari, excuse me, ang nangyayari yung mga biglang lumalaki, no, biglang tumataas sa mga bata. Kasi the direction of the growth naman ng sa body is nag-start sa head, tapos sa extremity sa arms, sa legs, tapos mahuhuli yung development ng torso. And then, so what happens with that? Hindi naman kasi sabay-sabay yan eh. Nagiging silang clumsy. Tapos yung body appearance nila, awkward. No? Tingnan mo tong si Julia. Kung titingnan mo yung sa picture, ang haba na ng legs niya. Ang haba na rin ng mga arms niya. Pero ang liit pa nung kanyang katawan. No? Hindi ganun ka-proportion. Look at the pictures ng mga no, compare the pictures ng middle childhood tsaka nung sa adolescence. Hindi talaga siya proportion. So, clumsy, no? Pwede sila maging clumsy. That's why, in middle childhood, we were discussing about physical activities. Mas maganda, you involve the child as early as middle childhood, no, edad nila, to get into sports and physical activities. Para pagdating nila ng adolescent stage, mas daming changes, no, physically. Pagka na-involve sila sa sports, hindi sila masyadong mahirapan mag-adjust dun sa physical development, pagtangkad nila, paghaba ng legs nila, paglaki ng paa, paghaba ng arms nila. No, kasi, nagawa na nila yun in middle childhood, hindi ganun na masyadong pansin. Kaya nga sinasabi, di ba, yung one effect of itong mga physical changes, yung kung sa Amerika, at this stage, yung mga girls, diba nag-cheer dancing sila? Or like in the Philippines, involved sila sa sports like volleyball. That's very advisable para sa mga girls to get involved into sports. Nakakatulong kasi siya. Especially, diba, when we talk about middle childhood, hindi pwedeng i-diet ang mga bata. Pagdating naman sa adolescence, madami ng fats and muscles. So, dapat ma-exercise yung mga muscles. All over, di ba? Muscles and fats. It's spread out all over the body. Yung sa mga boys, they have basketball. Now, when they started going into that sport, that's very helpful and beneficial for them.